Welcome to part 2 of my training on the 5 and 5 exercise that I began to talk about last week on my video and really explain that it is a journaling exercise, what journaling is, and why, some of the reasons why to do this, and some of the benefits of really writing down and releasing out of your thoughts and out of your mind what are the negatives, more of the things that are not so positive, not so fun or enjoyable, or negative emotions come from it. And the things, really that go into a lot of times things we're going through, and a lot of the things that we may feel out of control in our life over is another thing I'll mention. And so today, this part 2, as I had said last week, is on bringing the Bible into it, and how is there anything in the Word that would hint to that this is good or healthy or okay or anything of the sort. So there may be a scripture. I don't think there is. If you do, if I think of it later, I will bring it up. If you think of one that relates to this, please share it. But what I want to do is hone in on two Bible characters, two very important people, one in the Old Testament, one in the New Testament time, and what I believe is their journaling and reflects their, release of the negative and the toxic and the struggles that they were going through, etc. Right? So definitely, if you have not watched the last video, please go back and watch that. Even, you can go ahead and continue with this one, but it'll help you if you watch that part 1 first. Okay? And I use this in my coaching all the time. It's a very one of the things I share that I think can help anybody and everybody if they grab hold of it, especially if they want more mental health, better mental health. Because mental health is really about a positive. It's mental health. It's not, now the new saying is mental health condition, to try to sound less, more about the person, and that's good. But I brought it up in a mental health first aid training that I did for youth last week, that, it almost seems like the word mental health is the negative, like the problems. But no, it's the goal. We want mental health. So this is a tool that you can use in your life, especially when you need it the most, and that can really help your mental health. It's one tool, one thing that might be able to help you. Okay. So here we go with the scriptures that go with last week. So I'm going to Psalm 55 and Psalm 56. There are more examples than that, but I noticed Psalm 55 a while ago, a couple of years ago, maybe it was, and thought, wow, that's got a lot of negatives. But I noticed at the end, King David still goes back to the Lord and puts his trust in the Lord. So, as I said last week, next week will be the beginning of why writing down the positives is so good. But more people are aware of that, I think, than the benefit of writing down negatives. Maybe I'm not right, but so I wanted to, in the negatives, in my book, when you're really struggling with your mental health, you're really struggling with overwhelming situations in your life, it is actually better to get out the negative first. And that's another benefit I just want to add on to today. Another benefit is that when you release and write and dump out the negative thoughts that you have that are bogging up your mind, you free yourself up to be more ready for the positives, for the helpful. So I'll probably say that again next week, hopefully, but I thought of it today. You're preparing yourself to shift to the things to be grateful for. So that's another benefit. So Psalm 55, 1 through 15. Now, the second part of the Psalm is more going to be for next week. And the second part of Psalm 56 is more for when I go to the 5 positives, that after you write down your negatives, you do your positives. Okay? So this is what it says. Listen to my prayer, O God. Do not ignore my plea. Hear me and answer me, says King David. Though my thoughts trouble me and I'm distraught. So there he is right there talking about his thoughts. My thoughts trouble me and I'm distraught at the voice of the enemy, at the stares of the wicked, for they bring down suffering upon me and revile me in their anger. My heart is in anguish within me. The terrors of death assail me. Fear and trembling have beset me, and horror has overwhelmed me. Verse 6, I said, oh, that I had the wings of a dove. I would fly away and be at rest. I would flee far away and stay in the desert. I would hurry to my place of shelter, far from the tempest and the storm. Confuse the wicked, O Lord, confound their speech, for I see violence and strife in the city. Day and night they prowl about on its walls. Malice and abuse are within it. Destructive forces are at work in the city. Threats and lies never leave the streets. If an enemy were insulting me, I could endure it. This is real key right here. To a wound in his heart. If a foe were raising himself against me, I could hide from him. But it is you, a man like myself, my companion, my close friend, with whom I once enjoyed sweet fellowship, as I walked with the throng at the house of God. Verse 15, let death take my enemies by surprise. Let them go down alive to the grave, for evil finds lodging among them. So a bunch we could talk about in there, but one thing I want to pay attention to is that he wants to flee. He wants to get out of what he's feeling. Have we all been there? I've definitely been there. We just want to escape. We just want to get away from it. But I think that that's part of the releasing the negative out, is not to ignore it or just shove it down or keep it suppressed. And you think it's just going to go away, because it doesn't. By the way, experts all say that. I'm either ones in my videos. So, but if you don't know that fact, it is true. So by releasing the negatives, you're not ignoring it, but you're still helping yourself get free from them more in a healthy way, versus just trying to flee your circumstances or what have you. And I really believe that verse 12 and 13 refers to a deep wound from, like you said, a friend. If it was somebody that I didn't know well or what have you, what you said or what you did wouldn't have hurt me so much. But this was somebody I really put my trust in. And when we trust people more and we confide in people more with the deep things, it hits us more when they break that trust or something hurts us that they do or don't do. So moving on to Psalm 56. Be merciful to me, O God, for men hotly pursue me. All day long they press their attack. My slanders pursue me all day long. Many are attacking me in their pride. When I'm afraid, I will trust in you. So here he brings in an element of shifting right there. And God, whose words I praise, in God I trust, I will not be afraid. What can mortal man do to me? So that's sandwiched in there. And then he goes on to verse 5. All day long they twist my words. They're always plotting to harm me. They conspire, they lurk, they watch my steps, eager to take my life. On no account let them escape. In your anger, O God, bring down the nations. Record my lament and list my tears on your scroll. Are they not in your record? So just a few things to point out. He's talking about having tears. He's angry. He's releasing his anger. He is calling on God. Good thing to do. Not a bad thing to do. But he is definitely releasing on paper, but also to God, what's negative inside of him. This is personal attacks on him and personal things he's going through with people. And then, I over one of the verses in 55, to me, verse 11, I think it is 10, 11 right here that I'm looking at. It's kind of like he's talking about general things that are going on in the world that are very disturbing. And boy, we can all say that, right? There's plenty of disturbing things going on that may not as much hit us, but always everything affects if we find out about it because we're hearing about it. So we can be negative in a not a good place because we're focused on the things that are going on in Israel right now, or Russia, or Ukraine, or anywhere. Okay, so those are things we may need to release onto paper. Okay, so I talked about that last week, some of the different types of examples of things. That negatives in your head doesn't mean it's all bad or that you're sinning or that it's to no benefit, because I hit on an article in Google that talked about even the benefits of negative and releasing the negative. So it's all about what you do with it, right? It really is. How you respond to the things in your life, the thoughts in your mind, etc. So that's what I wanted to share today. I want to go to the New Testament. Who's my New Testament person? And what I'm saying about King David is you look at through the Psalms, he releases plenty of the negatives, and yet he still shifts over to God and his characters and the goods. Okay, he does both. That's what I want you to notice, okay? Now, in Second Timothy, I just finished reading this, and Paul hits on some things towards the end of chapter 4, which is the end of Second Timothy. And there's other places I could go to, but this is what I read recently. So here's a few things that Paul says. It's verses 9 through 10, and then verses 14 through 16, just so you know. So this is what Paul says. Do your best to come to me quickly, for Demas, because he loved this world, has deserted me and gone to Thessalonica. And then he says, that's just a little bit of what he says. Okay, then verse 14. Alexander the metalworker did me a great deal of harm. The Lord will repay him for what he has done. You too should be on your guard against him because he strongly opposed our message. So that's negatives about other people and what they did, right? And at verse 16, at my first defense, Paul says, no one came to my support. Support is huge. And he says the word support here. But everyone deserted me. Oh my goodness. Is that fun or good or a good experience to have everyone desert you? That's what Paul went through. And he was in jail, prison too. May it not be held against them. So there's the beginning of him releasing it and forgiving. But he is still writing these things to Timothy. He's saying things that have been hard and negative and even mentioning about other people, what they've done wrong. He's putting that in his writings, but then you'll see what he says after that. Okay, so I'm not going to go into that until probably 2 videos from now, because I'll probably do the same thing next week. Talk the importance of the positives and shifting, doing the negatives first and then shifting to the positives. And then I'll be sharing the second half of those same scriptures. Okay, so please follow this. Tell me if it's benefiting you, especially if you actually try it out, because I encourage you to try it out. Okay, we have King David, in a sense, journaling. And I want to mention that some people's journaling, they do rhyme and they do poetry. My youngest son, he definitely has a gift of writing in poetry. He gets out things that he's going through, things he believes, etc., and he writes it in a poetic manner. And what he does is turn it into rap songs. So all kinds of formats that people share poetry today, right? But King David, a lot of songs have been written out of his Psalms, but it's still basically his journaling. So I just want to point that out too. So God bless you. Like this video, please, and share it out if you will. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.